Imagine fighting a massive legal battle against the government for 30 years. You finally get your day in the Supreme Court.
Right.
The judges are leaning in, they're following your arguments. You've essentially mathematically proven your case.
Yes, you've won.
Exactly. You've effectively won. Then the attorney general walks in, files a delay, the bench rotates, and your case just evaporates from the docket.
It vanishes.
So, today, we're going to help unpack exactly how that happened to thousands of life insurance corporation retirees.
Yes, and we are looking at what is basically a distress signal disguised as a routine administrative update.
How interesting.
Our source is an internal circular. It's dated May 3rd, 2026, and it comes from the All India Retired Employees Federation, or AIREF.
IREF, LIC Retirees Union.
Exactly. It's a note by MP Agnihotri on why their civil appeals remain stranded in the Supreme Court.
Before we begin, a quick ground rule. We're looking solely through the lens of this pensioners circular today.
Right, which means we are getting their very specific perspective.
Exactly. And the document contains some highly charged political claims about the current government and the Attorney General's actions.
Very pointed.
Disclaimer. So, to be clear, we're not endorsing anyone. We're here only to unpack the legal dilly-dallying this circular describes.
Right, we're just looking at the claims and IRF feelings exactly as they present them.
So, where do we start?
Well, the sheer emotional whiplash is really the first thing that jumps off the page. I mean, thousands of retired LIC employees honestly believed they were just weeks away from a final historic victory back in December 2025.
Oh, so they were that close.
Instead, they're pushed into a legal void, igniting a fight between constitutional equity versus modern government policy.
And the document actually drops us into a very tense meeting in Delhi, right? On April 29th, 2026.
Yes, it's a meeting between the legal subgroup of the Pensioners Federation and their legal team.
That's advocate on record, Shri R.K. Singh, and senior counsel, Shri Nidesh Gupta, right?
Yes. And the source just openly shares their quote, grief and disappointment over the total derailment of their cases.
I mean, the contrast there is jarring, going from expecting a final favorable ruling to not even appearing on the court's docket.
And advocate R.K. Singh explains the underlying mechanism of that. He synthesizes the fundamental friction causing this whole legal limbo.
Yes, because this is the core of it, right?
He flags a major clash between today's policies and the judiciary's reading of service rules set 30 years ago.
It's 1990s promises colliding with 2026 reality, specifically LIC or Life Insurance Corporation pension rules of 1995.
Exactly. Singh stresses that courts hold statutory service rules, the laws written 30 years ago, above any executory reinterpretations.
Wait, executory interpretations. Can you break that down?
Yes, so an executory interpretation is a modern administrative memo or a policy shift decided by current management.
Okay, I see. So it's kind of like running a marathon, right? You're exhausted, you finally see the finish line ribbon.
And then the officials suddenly just pick up the finish line, move it to another city, and absolutely refuse to tell you the new route.
That is a perfect analogy. Singh warns that letting modern executory readings override old statutory rules would gut constitutional equality and equity.
Because if statutory rules can be reinterpreted away for convenience or cost, millions of pensioners lose all their security.
Right? The core of a contract is completely hollowed out.
That's terrifying for anyone with a pension.
It is, and Singh points out that this conflict is incredibly prominent right now in service related matters. The pensioners really feel they are protecting a foundational constitutional principle here,
Speaking truth to power.
right? Because if the government can simply decide to interpret a 1995 law differently in 2026 to save money, it sets a precedent.
A dangerous one, yes. It threatens the financial security of every single employee, past and present, in the Indian public sector.
But, holding the moral high ground on constitutional equity doesn't automatically keep your case on the docket.
No, it doesn't.
That philosophical clash directly triggered some very specific courtroom maneuvers that Nitesh Gupta describes next.
Right, so senior counsel Nidhesh Gupta details the proceedings from September 22nd and 23rd, 2025.
And this was the moment the pensioners thought they had sealed their victory, right?
They believed they'd presented and filed submissions that demolished the Delhi High Court's flawed conclusions.
They felt they had completely exposed a grave discrimination in the LIC pension scheme.
Yes, specifically regarding the massive disparity in basic pension and dearness relief among what they call artificially created groups.
Okay? Artificially created groups. That sounds like the core of their legal argument.
It is. In administrative law, creating classes without a rational basis violates the core equality principle.
Okay, how so?
The 995 scheme essentially drew this arbitrary line in the sand based on retirement dates.
So it dictated that if you retired on or before a certain specific date, your calculations followed one formula.
Yes, but if you retired just one day later, you were subjected to a completely different, far less lucrative formula.
They're splitting a uniform class of employees into distinct financial tiers purely based on an arbitrary calendar date.
Exactly.
Even though both groups served the exact same institution and paid into the exact same fund, that fundamentally violates equality.
And the circular claims their argument exposing this arbitrary division was so legally sound, it compelled the respondents to take extreme measures.
And here's where we get to the really bold claim in the document.
The text explicitly alleges they brought in the Attorney General of India to ensure the judgment was not delivered in favor of the pensioners.
They actually use the phrase, quote, by hook or by crook.
They note, this fight has dragged on for years and it's rare for the AG to appear in a routine service matter like this.
But here's where it gets really interesting but also a bit confusing to me.
Okay, what's that?
If the pensioners' arguments were so strong, how can delays and adjournments still derail justice?
That's a great question.
A delay is just a delay unless it shifts the setup, changing who hears the case and how it proceeds,
Well, yes, that is the mechanical reality of the Supreme Court.
right?
In a perfect world, arguments wait safely on a judge's desk, but the Supreme Court is overloaded.
Right. And the registry of the Supreme Court has a track record of undermining the justices.
So when they cite dilatory tactics plus a bench change, they mean a strategy to quietly strip a case of docket priority.
So it isn't about losing the argument, it's about being totally buried,
Exactly. Stack enough adjournments, citing constitutional study or attorney general scheduling conflicts, and the case sinks down the calendar.
pushing it far enough that the judicial roster changes.
Yes. And the judges who absorbed your arguments and the 95 schemes math suddenly rotate off the bench.
And the new bench has to start over from zero.
Or worse, the case can vanish from the queue. Not lost on merit, just buried in time, lost in the doldrums of rules.
The doldrums. Yeah, that's incredibly evocative.
Because the doldrums were those areas of the ocean near the equator where sailing ships would get stuck for weeks because there was absolutely no wind.
The ships didn't sink, they just stopped moving while the crews slowly ran out of supplies.
That's what's happening. They're trapped by a provision called Order 3, Rule 7 of the 2013 SC rules.
Okay, let's get into the weeds of those doldrums. What exactly is Order 3, Rule 7?
Their status was frustrating. The case was largely heard, and they'd even filed a common convenience compilation.
Which is basically organizing all their vital citations and paperwork into one master file, right?
Correct.
They'd streamlined everything. The judge's sequence was set and every step was in place to keep the hearing smooth.
Yes. But because of the delay and the subsequent roster change, Order 3, Rule 7 kicks in.
So, what does that rule actually mandate?
It mandates that if a case is not actively assigned to a specific bench, or if the bench that was hearing it is dissolved or altered, the case essentially drops from the active priority hearing list.
You're kidding.
No, it cannot just pick up where it left off. It must wait to be newly mentioned, evaluated, and assigned all over again by the Chief Justice.
Oh, that is so frustrating. It's like your flight is cleared for takeoff, you're on the runway.
Then someone asks for a 10-minute pause, and in that window, the tower changes shifts. The new air traffic controller knows nothing of your flight plan and how long you've been waiting, so they just send you to the back of a 500 plane queue.
You didn't lose your plane, but you're back in the doldrums.
Exactly. And what makes this circular so powerful is that it doesn't just list these bureaucratic hurdles, it anchors them to the human element.
Right, there are real people behind these delays. Senior and super senior retires running down their biological time.
The authors make a point to mention the poignancy of the situation. Their senior advocate himself is agonizingly disappointed.
Even the legal titans fighting this battle are feeling the emotional weight of it.
Yeah. He tells the senior pensioners that he fully understands their grief and he assures them he is keeping an eye out for an opportune time to move.
Which shows the toll this takes on people who are in their 70s and 80s, just waiting for a resolution that keeps slipping away.
And there's really vital detail here regarding what the circular calls the legal fee burden. The advocate assures them that he is, quote, with them for the cause.
That single sentence speaks volumes about the financial exhaustion that accompanies these kinds of legal delays.
Absolutely. When a case is drawn out over years through endless adjournments and bench changes, the legal fees can literally bleed a union dry.
So, the fact that the advocate is reassuring them about fees shows that the stalling tactics actively threaten the financial survival of the Retirees Federation.
It does. It's injustice attrition.
So, you have thousands of retired individuals fighting an immovable grinding system perfectly designed to outlast them.
Yes.
They're up against shifting rosters, deep pocketed respondents, a nasty registry, and judicial inertia. How can retired citizens fight that machinery?
Well, looking at the final section of the document, MP Agnihotri lays out a strategic 4-point action plan.
Okay, what's the plan?
First, he reminds them that their pleadings are convincing and they are legally strong. They haven't lost the argument.
Okay, that's point one.
Second, he admits it'll take time but insists justice will come despite what he calls a sorry state of affairs.
Okay,
Third, he warns them they must remain vigilant and cautious to counter any ulterior moves of the respondents.
and the final point.
His fourth point is a mandate that all the petitioner associations must face this situation jointly.
So, what's the takeaway for MC Singla retirees who aren't LIC pensioners? What does Agnihotri's guide teach them?
Agnihotri's message is a masterclass in resilience. When bureaucracy weaponizes time and complexity, isolation is what kills a movement.
Absolutely.
His focus on what he calls collective wisdom is really the only way to survive the financial and emotional attrition of the justice doldrums.
Because if the unions splinter off or they try to cut individual deals because they are just exhausted, the entire constitutional argument falls apart.
His plan accepts a hard truth. Being right doesn't guarantee speed. The system never rewards truth with haste.
A truly sad truism.
The circular ends defiantly. The struggle is painful, Agnihotri writes, but they must brave every hurdle to reach the bitter end.
Take the cases to their logical end. I love that. It's a complete refusal to let the administrative exhaustion win.
Yes.
They understand that the process is the punishment, but they are absolutely refusing to be punished into submission.
It's incredibly resilient. So we started with a standard federation circular today. And we exposed a deep clash over decades-old service rules and alleged Attorney General-linked courtroom delays.
And we explored the crushing mechanics of the Supreme Court roster system and Order 3, Rule 7.
Exactly. Ending on a really resilient call for collective action by Shri MP Agnihotri.
A rousing rallying call. Once more unto the breach, dear friends, once more.
King Henry VI's rallying cry from Shakespeare's play.
The human story. Deferred dreams, financial strain, and exhausting fights for equity, all to ensure an institution keeps its promise.
This clash shows the danger of executory tweaks trying to override core agreements, using legal friction to wear opponents down.
30-year-old service rules now collide with modern policy, creating a legal gridlock where the finish line keeps moving.
Yes, and it begs a really important question for today.
It does. I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. So here's the thought. What routine policies today will become tomorrow's legal battles?
Right now, someone is drafting a memo that will trap a future generation in procedural limbo.
Thank you, listening.
Please subscribe and share. Your support means so much.